Welcome back. Today I'd like to give you 3 ideas to get ready for the garden season when the garden currently is looking like this, covered in snow and plenty cold. So the first idea is to work on your garden education. The second is to write out your plant diagram, and the last is to purchase your seeds. So working on your garden education is an idea from Lynn Gillespie on her show, The High Performance Garden Show. It's an excellent resource to watch as she works week by week through her raised bed gardens. She has filmed the show for a couple of years, so there's lots to watch, and I highly recommend it if you haven't. You need to sign up through the website, The Living Farm. It's not on YouTube. You can also just read through the plant information and descriptions given in various seed magazines that you have. These are a couple that I have, and there's several other companies out there. You can also learn about different ways you can have a garden, such as container gardening, raised beds like I have, traditional rows, or whatever your interest is. And while you're working on your garden education, you can also learn about different ways to preserve what you harvest. Are you going to plant just enough to eat it all fresh, or do you want to freeze some, dehydrate it, can it, whatever? This is a good time to decide on how you want to preserve what you grow this year. Okay, number 2 is the plant diagram. So I've got out the seeds I already have and some extra paper just to make notes as I go. I've drawn out my raised beds. They are 16 feet by 4 feet or 4.8 meters by 1.2. And I kind of marked little sections. And this smaller one is a cinder block one. And that's water. So I planted this last year and it bolted in June in the heat, but I want to plant it again. I just know I'll need to plan to replant that in this heat of the summer. I like all the choys, but they do like to have cooler weather. I like this lettuce. Spinach is another one that'll bolt, so I know I need to plan to replant it in the summer heat. So I can keep that ground going. There's another lettuce. This one is a new one, and it says it likes the cool but can tolerate the heat. So we'll see. I want to try it though. This one I am actually growing indoors in my indoor rice garden. It doesn't get as big as the picture, but I really like it. So I think I'll keep doing that in the indoor garden. More spinach. And yeah, that one. This one I also want to try, but I want to try it in my outdoor garden tower, I think. So I'm going to just write that down for now. These are the ideas that you can make notes of as you're going through your seeds and planning where you want to put things. So we collected seeds last year so we can have some of our own seeds to plant again this year. I also want to rotate where I plant things. So last year I planted broccoli here, but I want to move it here. I only want to do 4 plants this year because we had so much. The variety is artwork, and the plants get really big and produce really well. So I'm just going to do 4, and I'm going to put that down. I also put in celery again. This is what I planted, and they needed started indoors, which you can note if you want to. So if you know what you want and where you want it, you can start putting things down on your diagram and making notes of things, and just decide where you want it if you want to decide right now and keep going from there. So I've got a few things I know where I want, and can just keep going through what I have and keep deciding. I like to note when I need to plant things so I can make the best use of the land and make sure I've got something growing continually during the season. Potatoes need the full season, but this is a cool season vegetable and can have something planted afterwards. Like I said before, they bolted in the heat. So I can plant some like this, or I can plant beans that like the heat, or just other things to go after that and use that space productively. So I have bok choy too, and then I'll plant something after that when it gets hotter. I also like this Chinese cabbage, so I'll put that somewhere in my notes or diagram. I like onions also, and as you look at your seeds, it's good to check the back of your seed packets, and if you haven't before, see when they need to grow. Like these are 8 to 12 weeks before planting outside, and there's other vegetables like that, which is very different from, say, something like these carrots that are directly planted in the ground. So make notes of that. They need early planting. So those are some ideas of what you can write down as you look through your seeds and start writing out your garden diagram. All right, I've got my plan going here. I got some of my seeds out. I'll show you what's going on with all of this. So I started looking at all the seeds that I had, and I made a list of all the things that I was wanting for things that I had. I then drew out my garden plots that I have. So these are my garden beds. They're 16 feet long. So each section is about 4 feet, or 121 centimeters long for each section, and it's 4 wide. So this is a smaller bed, and then this is a very long pumpkin patch that I made last year. So it just has fencing in the middle so that we can trellis everything up and over. So I started writing everything out of things that I would like to look at planting this year, and then started adding them to my spots around here. All of these that are like split out, I split out the 4-foot section into 2 at each side. These broccolis are going to get really big because I've planted them for several years, and so I can only do a couple in each square. Spinach, once it gets hot, it'll bolt, so I can use this area for replanting for something for a summer crop. So a lot of these I'll have like a very early spring to something for the summer. Peas are the same thing. They're going to bolt and not want to produce in the hot. So I can take those out and use this space for something for a summer plant. And I got several of those. Broccoli I'll plant right away, and it can go all the way through the growing year. Celery I'll be planting later in the summer. And these Hawkeye turnips they grow really fast in the spring, and so once we harvest all of those, then I can use this space again for other things. So once you have your plan and you have all these things written out, you can do something like this and mark out all the spots. Then it becomes what variety of cabbage or what variety of carrots do you want to plant? Or especially like the melons, like watermelon or the choys. So like I have several different varieties of choys that I want to try. And so as you look at the place and the planting, you start to realize how much space versus how much varieties you have. Same with carrots. I have a lot of carrots that look really great and I want to try. And right now I have almost a 4x4. Not quite. I want to put some onions in there. So yeah, trying to squish all of these in there. We'll have to see about that. Same with down here on all my squashes. I put one hill of a few of them. And then I started listing all these other varieties that I want to try because there's a lot of varieties that I like to grow, and some of them are new, and some of them are ones that I want to start trying. And that's when you start to realize how much space versus the number of varieties that you want to try kind of needs to match up. But this is all good things to have planned and decided before the planting time comes along, so you're all ready to go and know how much and where you want to put everything. So just to review the 3 things, one would be to get your education, and you can do that through plant things like this, just looking at all these different varieties. Johnny's is really good with their catalogs. They have all these little growing tips and the culture, which is how can it grow, what does it want for growing for all of these different varieties. Soil temperature, which can be a big deal. The optimum range to get the most of your seeds to grow. So you need to know that kind of information. Does it like to grow in heat or not? Some things like spinach, you won't get it to sprout very much if it's too hot. So number 1, get your education with books or magazines. 2 is to draw out your spacing. Figure out your layout for your gardens and what you want to grow in. And then get your seeds and start mapping it out, and we'll see how much and where you want to put everything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.